Hey everybody, my name's Chris and welcome to the Luth Machine Works. For this video, I have a good project that has the end goal of relaxation, but so far has looked a lot more like work. So last summer my wife and I wanted to get caught up in the stock tank pool craze, but they were sold out pretty much everywhere. By the time we were able to get one, it was December. So what do you do with a stock tank in December? Well, the only real thing you can do with it is make it into a hot tub. I did some research. The first problem though is hot tubs are expensive. For anything outside of this shop, I'm cheap. That really only leaves the redneck option, which is to heat it with wood. After looking into wood-fired hot tubs a little bit, the biggest issue with that is we're already those people in the neighborhood, if you get what I'm saying. At this point, I doubt that they're going to tolerate any more unconventional projects, so we need this to look good and most importantly work really well. After doing some more research, it seemed like most people just slapped a copper coil on the side of their tank and let her rip. So the copper coil is actually very inefficient since you're losing heat in pretty much all directions but into the water. You can put it in a chimney, but that's not a whole lot better. It left me with a lot of ideas, but nothing good. But this is the Luth Machine Works. What we do here is we look into the past to help find solutions for modern problems, like a hot tub. Because if there's one thing people knew how to do around the turn of the century, it's how to heat water. A lot of water. In fact, they knew how to heat a lot more water a lot hotter than I would ever need. It looks like I need to build a boiler. Well, maybe not that big. What I'm going to build is a vertical fire tube boiler. Now, it's not going to make steam, but it should be able to get a lot of water up to temp very quickly. I'm not going to bore you all with too much detail right now. I'll save that for the next video where I go through the systems that will make this hot tub functional, but for now, let's jump straight into the fabrication. Next thing I got to do is repeat this process and cut a ring out of this one. Alright, I've got the Freon tank marked with the blue marker just like I had done before. I'm going to use the height gauge again to go ahead and scribe another line here. This one I'm basically cutting a 3.5 inch ring out of. I'm getting set up to mark out the next line on this tank here, and so I'm going to use the height gauge up against the speed square. Use that fine adjustment knob down here to dial in exactly 3.5 inches. Close enough. So the next step here is to take this ring and get this lined up, centered properly on the bottom of the firebox. What I'm thinking I can do is take these two pieces of angle, which will kind of center their way onto the tank, and then ratchet strap them on there roughly perpendicular, and then measure the distance in between the two of those and repeat the process. This actually ended up being a little easier than expected. I realized I could just plumb these up using a level, and that worked fine, and magnets hold them in place just fine too. So now I'll go ahead and get this centered. Just use the tape measure and do the best I can here. Actually, visually, I think I got this pretty darn close. Alright, so we've made good progress. Got this hole cut in here and ground smooth. The ring fits on there nice and perfect. A little bit of a lip inside, but not much that we can't grind off after welding. Time to weld. So I'm using 024 wire. I'm going to be using the Miller 211 here, and we'll just put it in the auto set mode. And that's about 1/8 inch thickness material, maybe a little bit less. We'll err on the low side of that material thickness. And honestly, the auto set's pretty much on the money for stuff like this. Now that I've got some welding done, I'm going to go ahead and blend this fillet weld in using a curved flap wheel. These are furred. They make these. They're really good for getting in on these fillet welds and other tight spaces and doing a nice clean job of blending. With this ring on here, this piece, we can start mating this up. This is the removable ash catcher that can be removed and dumped. To do that, I'm going to need to make a couple of collars. This material is too thin to really attach any mounting hardware to, so I'm going to roll 2 collars of this 1 1/4 inch bar stock. One here and one here. I rolled 3 rings. 2 rings are rolled out of 1 1/4 inch. These are going to be collars that hold the ash pan in place. And this 3rd ring here, this is rolled out of 2 inch bar. This is going to be what controls the airflow in and out of the firebox. So I've got the tank flipped back over again so y'all can see how this is going to work. So this ring, the damper ring, sits on top of the air intake ring, and it will be able to rotate. On this ring, there's going to be some holes. As this ring turns, it'll either open up or close up these holes, letting air in or keeping air out. The ash pan will be connected with another collar. Next up is to lay out some holes around the perimeter for the air intake. Instead of doing this on the side, I'm going to lay this down and use the old-fashioned divider method along this rim here so I can divide the circle into 8 equal parts. And the way we do that is we just trial and error. This is the 12 o'clock mark up here. You walk the dividers around. A little bit too long, so bring those in just a little bit. Try again. Not quite long enough. Doesn't take much adjustment to make a big difference at the end. Right there. So we are now able to divide this into 8 equal marks. So to do that, start at the 12 o'clock. We scribe a line. Basically each one we're going to scribe a scribe mark. There we go. Now we have 8 scribe marks around. Can take the little square, and it's hard to do this on a circle, and make a better scribe mark. And I was marking to the inside edge here. For the handle of the damper ring, I'm using one of these welding hammers with the hammer end cut off. So that the ash pan fits into the collar, this gap here needs to be set to 1/2 inch. Now that everything's even, I'll add some small tack welds on the inside to hold everything in place. I've got one more collar to do. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead since this is basically the same process as the other two. So now we've got the mounting collars attached on both the air intake ring and on the ash catcher. Fits together pretty well, a little bit tight, but works pretty well. Now that almost everything's done on the intake ring, it's time to drill all the holes. I've got kind of an odd setup here. I need to cut a radius in this blank so that it'll fit onto the ash pan, and I need to make all of these consistent. So what I've done is I've set up a jig using the center drilled hole and some angle iron extended off of my bench. And this will let me use the plasma cutter and the radius guide to make this even on every single one of them. Next up is to cut the outer radius. After a lot of cutting and grinding, I'm left with two matched sets of handles. I've done a little bit of layout for holes here and notches here. This will all make a little bit more sense after I start drilling some holes and putting this latch together. The other thing I need to do is make two L-shaped latch handles out of this bar, two short latch pins out of this bar, and two bushings out of this bar. So the latches are starting to come together. I made 2 collars that fit onto these L-shaped latch handles, and 2 pins, latch pins, that'll go into these cross-drilled holes here. When I drilled these cross holes, I drilled them a little bit undersized so that these pins are a press fit. I don't want them coming out once this is all put together. I want this to be permanent. So these pins are 3/16 of an inch. So I drilled number 14 holes because they get a little bit oversized when you don't ream them out. I don't have any reamers this small, and hopefully this will work for a press fit. These latch handles and their pins go into this matched pair of handles, and then this cross pin is what actually does the latching. So that'll fit through this slot here so that the 2 pieces can come apart. What I need to do next is get one of these welded on so I can start fitting everything together. Alright everyone, the bottom of the firebox is starting to look pretty good. The ash pan's on there good and snug. The handles are removable, but snug. When you turn them 90 degrees, the pan will come off so you can go dump the ash. The intake ring made it through the welding just fine without binding up anywhere. Still opens and closes. And the best part is, somehow, it doesn't hit this handle. With everything turned right side up, it's really starting to come together. This ash pan works just as well upside down, and the intake ring turns even better. If you want to see more of this project, don't forget to subscribe. There's going to be more videos posted on this channel, more machining, more welding, more fabrication, and hopefully a little bit of my day job too. So, thanks for watching.